switch del lado izquierdo en esta primera y 10. Dobbs suelta al centro del campo. ¡Completo! Y touchdown con Hawkinson. Arriba Vikings.
Overall, an interesting performance there from the Vikings and Josh Dobbs, but we'll get into all of that stuff a little
Cairo
bit
Santos,
later.
a friend of the podcast,
I know.
though. He booted that field goal.
He did
at
get
the very
quite
end.
a bit of love for
Yes.
our
There we
brasileño.
go.
I love
Brasileño.
it. Hola, mi gente.
What's up?
Dímelo. Welcome into the El Huddle podcast. For those of you who are watching Will Selva and myself, MJ Acosta-Ruiz, you can't tell us a thing today because we got new swag.
Yes, we did. We
New
love this.
El Huddle swag.
El Huddle
And
mugs.
it's giving Abuela's Chocolate should be in here, but right now it's just water. I promise it's
I
just
could
water.
see that for sure.
We are
This
on the clock.
does remind me of some of the trips that I would take because we would drive
Yes.
from San Francisco to Mexico, Rosarito, and I remember going into some of those bodegas, or I don't know if you call it tiendas,
Yeah,
whatever, and
those
I would
shops.
see these
Yeah.
kinds of mugs.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, wow, this reminds me of a very good time. So appreciate the fact that we got this. By the way, also, too, my oldest brother, he was listening, and he heard us talking about the dressing and stuffing, and I said how I didn't like it. Well, it's relleno is what
El
it is.
relleno, yes,
Yeah, did not like it at all. He apparently didn't like it either because he also had the green sick emoji that he sent me.
No.
My other brother said that
That's
too.
shade. Wow.
Just
Things got
saying,
real.
we have strong feelings.
The older
about
we
it
get,
that are
the more
good.
emboldened we feel to talk about like
yes,
these
we do.
family meals for sure. My Thanksgiving dinner, as I told you guys last week, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, good.
No notes. Everything delicious. Everything great. And we, of course, had more the next
Yes.
day. I'm sure they're still eating leftovers over in Arizona. It was delightful. I'm still full, Will.
Good.
But the best part was being able to watch all of the games.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a lot of football, you guys, and we had an extra one on Friday.
Love it.
So one of my nieces was like, okay, wait, there's another one. Can we watch a movie? Can we watch a cartoon? Can we go outside?
No.
And so we went outside where there is another television. So we just continued to watch
Wait, I want to
more
watch Frosty the
games.
Snowman. No,
No.
we're going to watch the
Yes.
Dolphins
Right.
play
and Jets
on
game.
Friday against
Yes.
the Jets.
To that end, Will, we're reaching that point in the season where teams' playoffs hopes are made and some of them are broken. So I'm
That they
watching
are.
my Finns, of course, on Friday, and that was a game that they were supposed to win.
Yeah.
They did win, but it wasn't without some areas of concern, especially now that Jalen Phillips is out for the rest of the season. I mean, he has been
So
one
critical
of the
to that defense, the
brightest spots
resurgence of
oh
the
my
defense.
God. No
Yeah.
question. And you could see there was a stark difference. There was a couple of games where he was out earlier in the season and then he came back and it just came back full force. That really, really hurts for him because you love to watch him. You love to root for him. But certainly for what it does for this Miami Dolphins defense for sure. They have some depth for sure, but he's just one of those X factor type of guys. The other area of concern for myself is Tua.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of fumbles.
what do you
There's been a
think
lot
about
of
that?
picks. I don't know what is going on there with his ball protection because it has been, I think, a little bit too long since we've had one of these lights out amazing games from Tua. He's still getting it done. So I think we forget a little bit because, all right, well, he's still throwing it. He's still finding Tyreek.
Right.
He's still finding Jalen. We're getting it done. The offense is putting up 30-plus points. Great. But you can't overlook those things because the deeper we go into the season, and now we're going into week 13, that means there's just 5 more weeks before we get into the postseason. Those are the things that you got to get that together.
Yeah.
Because that's not going to fly in the postseason.
And that also speaks to the running game and how important it is for Tua as well
No
to
question.
really loosen things up.
I mean, Raheem is crushing.
He's doing well,
Oh my
and
God.
he's been healthy,
Yes.
which has been the most
Yes.
important factor here because we saw Achane didn't get a chance to play.
I know.
He appeared to have re-aggravated a knee injury, or maybe it was a separate knee injury. Either way, they depended on him to be that home run threat, right? To get the big chunk
Exactly.
yards. So maybe they work him back into the mix.
Yeah.
Because I think that would also help out Tua a lot. But
Yeah.
I think the Phillips injury doesn't help out.
No, it doesn't. So we're going to have to see who steps up to fill that very big spot. The entire defense certainly has to come together to push continue to push it to stay at the top of that division and to get into good playoff seating for sure. What about your team? Niners fan over here.
Well, I think the 49er game against the Eagles now is going to live up to the billing, right? Because after the NFC Championship last season, there was a lot of chirping going back and forth between both teams where some of the 49ers players thought this game would have been a lot different had we not had the injuries. Because remember, it wasn't just Brock Purdy, but it was also Johnson as well who went down. And listen, the Eagles knocked out Purdy. They won that game fair and square. That is what was the element, the issue that they were facing. And so that took nothing away from Philadelphia. But now this feels like this Week 13 matchup, there's going to be buildup this week, right? Yeah. And already we are getting a little bit of that buildup. Compliments of one Hassan Reddick, who had this to say about the chirping back and forth, in particular from one Deebo Samuel. Here we go.
You guys got the 49ers next. I know you just got done playing, but you know they did a lot of talking in the offseason about what happened in the NFC Championship game last year. How much of that has stayed in the back of your mind ahead of next week?
You know, as this season been going on, not much. Talk is cheap. You know, they get to come back in the link. It was a lot of boo-hoos last year, a lot of crying, a lot of what if, a lot of this, a lot of that. They get a chance to come back in here, line that up and prove it again.
Ooh.
Lots of boo-hoos.
Yeah, look,
happening.
He's not one to ever sugarcoat a single thing.
But these big games are happening in Philadelphia, right?
Yes.
I mean, we saw that
they
with
are.
the Bills.
Yeah.
Like, that was an awesome game to watch. In the elements, wind, rain, and the Eagles gutted it out. And once again, Jalen Hurts coming up with the clutch play when it was needed.
Yes.
And they again showed that they can win no matter what, any condition. And listen, these games have been in the link, and I think that certainly helps out. But this is a team that they are the best team right now with the one loss, and they're getting it done.
Period. Here's the thing: like we've heard this before, and we've heard this cliche before. We'll take an ugly win over a beautiful loss, which like the latter doesn't even seem like something that's feasible, right? An L is an L, but it doesn't matter because the teams that go far are the teams that figure it out and find a way to get it done. Whether it's pretty, whether it's in overtime, whether your kicker got you there, whether your quarterback rushed it in at the last, it doesn't matter. As long as you get on that win column, that's the ultimate goal. Because that's what's going to help you get seeding. That's what's going to get you, a first-round bye in the postseason. This is what these teams are keeping in mind. So the stats and all of that stuff, it's great. And thank you, Jalen, for the 30-something points in fantasy.
Yeah, okay.
We'll get a little bit more into that later.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, all they know is that they're trying to make it back to the Super Bowl again this year.
Yes. And listen, the 49ers, they look like the 49ers team before their 3-game losing streak. Now they seem to be really finding their stride.
No question.
So naturally, with the chirping back and forth, this is what Deebo had to say about the trash comment he made about James Bradbury, the cornerback of the Eagles. Here we go.
You termed James Bradbury trash after that game last year. Do you regret that? I mean,
I don't regret nothing I said.
Okay, you stand by it.
He said, I said what I said.
Yeah.
I saw a meme the other day that said, the corporate way of saying I said what I said is I maintain my thoughts on this matter. Fantastic.
That's funny.
That's basically what Deebo is saying. Also, I want to gift every beat writer one of those little mics that you can attach to your...
Yeah, now that's the new thing, right? I feel like in the past couple of years, there's like these little
great.
Microphones, right?
Yes. I know for their purposes, all they just need to hear it. But man, it'd probably be better audio for them as well.
Yeah.
Shout out to all the beat writers. They are in there grinding.
Yeah.
Daily to get these stories out there, man.
Doing yeoman's work. But, also the Eagles are going to be a little dinged up there with Fletcher Cox and Cunningham, the running back. So they're going to have these injuries to overcome. And, Brock Purdy has looked like the Brock Purdy from earlier in the season.
Yeah.
He turned the ball over one time, but he looked great. We saw what they did against Jacksonville, so it just seems like they're catching their stride. The Eagles also give up a lot of yards on the ground to that ground game of the Bills. And if you're the Bills, boy, they're one of 6 teams, by the way, on a siestecita, which wreaks total havoc on everybody's fantasy football team. That aside, the Bills licking their wounds at this point in time, 6-6.
It's rough.
And this is a team that feels good enough to win, but not good enough to close out games. They had their opportunities and just couldn't close the deal. And Josh Allen, I've said on this podcast, if he doesn't do the hero ball, that helps him out. He didn't do hero ball. He was actually doing what he could to extend plays, to throw the ball. There was miscommunication with Gabe Davis, which didn't help out. And those are the sorts of plays that great teams make.
Right.
And that's where we saw the Eagles. They didn't look their best in that first half, but second half, they got that ground game going. And then we saw the greatness of Jalen Hurts. I mean, I think he's lost only 2 games against teams with winning records.
Right.
He's won over 20 games. I mean, this is a talented quarterback, needs to be mentioned as one of the top QBs, or at least top half QBs of this league.
Do you remember his first 2 years in the league?
Yeah.
And all the criticism he got?
Yeah.
So bring that same energy.
Because people thought that they would get a quarterback. They would draft one.
Right. So bring that same energy for what Jalen is doing now. Game after game, week after week for this team. Tremendous. But I mean, both of these guys. And you have to give Josh Allen his flowers here.
Yeah.
Because that was not a beautiful loss, but a tough one because they were so close. He played unbelievably. I think he got the most fantasy points of any quarterback this week for sure. 339 yards. He brought in 2 touchdowns on the ground. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking for Papi, right?
It is. He didn't even want to talk to me about it. He didn't want to talk to me about it. But, you know, the other part was, so he's upset that his team lost, but moreover, I don't think they covered. You know I don't dabble in that stuff because we're not allowed to. But, yeah, there was something about the spread. And I was like, you know what, Dad? That's a you problem.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say there.
Hey, you know what's another great sneaky matchup, and we talked about it before we started recording, was the Texans and the Broncos, because at the beginning of the year, who would have thought this would be one of those games that would be compelling to watch, where the Broncos are a completely different team at this point in time, as are the Texans who CJ Stroud and what he's done.
They took a tough loss.
Yes. No, that was a gut punch where that kick hitting the crossbar so close. Well, we saw like the Eagles and Jake Elliott made that 59-yarder. It's just
it hurts.
It's just
and
another
then you hear the
another yard for the Texans.
I know.
So these are some compelling games that I am looking forward to. I think
I didn't have that on my bingo card, Will.
Yeah, I know.
Circling the Broncos Texans game in Week 13.
I know.
But we've been saying it for several weeks now. Do not sleep on this Texans squad, despite what their record says. Sneaky good.
I know, absolutely sneaky good. I'd like to think that we're sneaky good. We are going to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to need that Platano Power and Perro Macho too. That's going to be on the other side with MJ and Will. This is the Huddle podcast, familia.
The roar of the crowd, your favorite team, old rivalries, new players. Super Bowl 58 is happening in Las Vegas, Nevada, and Mundo NFL wants to send you to the big game. Get a chance to win 2 tickets to Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas, Nevada, just by signing up at nfl.com/boletos. You can't win if you don't enter. Do it now. No purchase necessary. Ends December 31st, 2023. Must be a legal resident of the 50 U.S. states or D.C., 18 or over. Void where prohibited. For official rules, which govern and complete details, visit nfl.com/boletos.
Va a correr Hurts, se va a meter Hurts, touchdown, 10ª victoria del año para las Águilas. Filadelfia se lleva el triunfo en tiempo extra. Pues lo platicábamos hace un rato acerca de Filadelfia, que quizás no se ve con un empaque.
Crazy.
Yeah, and just Papi's just.
Shout out to every single fan standing there in the cold.
Yeah, that's dedication.
Because let me tell you, I'm not standing
They
there.
roll.
I'm finding somebody sweet. I'm going inside. It's not happening. It's not happening.
So you know who wants what Philadelphia has right now? The culture and the foundation are the Panthers. At this point in time, the Panthers are searching for answers. And I think the first thing that they thought after the start that they've had, 1-10, let's get rid of Frank Reich. So now this is, if you're keeping track at home, the third coach to get fired in the middle of the season here.
Yeah.
We saw Ron Rivera and then Matt Rule and then now Frank Reich. So Panthers owner David Tepper, he addressed reporters, and this is what he had to say about making his decision to fire Frank Reich.
I do have patience. I'm just not, my reputation away from this game is one for extreme patience. You know, there's no reason why that doesn't, come here too. It does. Now, that patience comes with good performance and things that you want to see progress being made on in different aspects. And as I said, I would like to have somebody here for 20, 30 years. I'd like to have somebody that would say eulogy at my funeral in 30 years. Okay, maybe it's 40 years, I hope. But that's what I'd like to have.
He says he's a patient person. He also said that in the business world, people don't leave him, that they are with him for 20, 30 years. And he made it clear this was a separate situation. And that it is a time for self-reflection, that things are evolving. And he said, listen, Reich is a great man, but they had to make a change, and also talked about the commitment to Bryce Young. And it just, he says the patient aspect of it, but there are people that are going to say what coach is going to walk into this thinking that they could be DOA, dead on arrival, if they don't produce results within 11 games.
11 games, right. Because that's the other thing. This is a rookie quarterback who still needs a lot more pieces around him. A lot more has to happen on the other side of the ball.
Better on
as
the
well.
offensive line. The offensive
100%.
line is a disaster.
Correct. So they still need to build that. So I can see the mental gymnastics of where 1-10, somebody's got to get fired, right? Where there's this pressure across the league, like somebody's got to take the heat for this. But at what point is there something to be said for consistency, something to be said for investing the time into really seeing if this works and adding the other pieces to really give it a fair shot, right?
Right.
At the end of the day, this is also a business.
It is. It is.
This is also a business. So,
and they don't have a first round pick. They gave up a lot.
Yep.
And this is going to take some time to clean this up. And then you have the juxtaposition of Bryce Young seeing CJ Stroud be so successful in Houston. That doesn't help out either. So some of the early names, because he didn't want to speculate or give any speculation on the hiring process, but maybe a Bill O'Brien is somebody, maybe, but right now, how good does his resume look with the Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi experiences? So,
I don't know that you can make a case necessarily for that, but even
he liked Bryce Young though from Alabama. So maybe that's the connection. I don't know. I don't know. That was one of the early names that were brought up. Scott Pioli or Peter Schrager. They had talked about it. It's like, yeah, maybe those make sense there. But I just think whoever is going to step into that situation has to realize they don't have a lot of slack. They don't have a big runway, a long runway to fail here.
No, and it's I think unfortunate because we put so much pressure behind these first round picks, right? Especially when you're the first overall.
Yeah.
And it takes a minute, but if you don't have the pieces around you and the team is very much in a rebuilding situation, you have to take all of those things into account. It's very similar to what we were talking about in the past block with Jalen Hurts and how immediately the newspapers and all the beat writers were like, get him out of here.
Yeah.
This is a little different for sure, but I haven't heard people talk too much about Bryce.
Yeah.
But yet the coaches and all of that stuff are taking. So I have to wonder what else is going on behind the veil, right? Like there was maybe the scheme wasn't working, maybe the dynamics of the coaching staff wasn't working, and that plays a huge part of it as well. So I think there's a lot to be resolved with the Panthers right now, and the rest of this season plus the offseason is going to be really interesting.
If my mom understood what the situation was in Carolina, she'd say, "Lo hecho paste." And I think that's where we are right now.
What does she mean by that?
Well, it's just the whole thing is just a mess right now. It's it's not
good.
It's not great.
It's not good.
But you know what is great always for us? One of the staples of the program, a couple of staples of the program. One of them, Perro Macho.
Yes.
The Perro Machos, they were plentiful. Whoa. Heel.
Cinnamon.
Yes.
Heel.
So one of my Perro Machos, I didn't think I would ever say this. As Taylor Swift had said, are you ready for it?
Oh, my God.
Here we go. Broncos quarterback, Russell Wilson.
Also not on our bingo card.
Not on our bingo card at all. The way that he is, honestly, he is putting touch on those throws. He's also extended plays. It feels a little bit like the let the Russ cook days from before,
a little bit.
Really utilizing his legs really well. I think like they've figured it out with Vance Joseph. That 70 spot that they gave up to the Dolphins, that was a wake-up call. and even Sean Payton said like they're wearing this thing, and this Broncos team, this was a team that was a laughing stock, and now Russell Wilson, and we talked about what may or may not be the authenticity with him and how he shows in the Broncos Let's Ride is not doing that. I have to say, like, Sean Payton's getting the most out of him right now, and it seems like this team. This is playoff time here for this team. The AFC is really competitive at this point in time, and to beat a really good defense in the Browns, that was impressive.
Yeah. It was. And you know what? I'm glad that you named him as your Perro Macho, because it's easy to sort of get on a player when the team is down and all of that. But when they start to rise back up, which the Broncos have, good on you.
And listen, hey, I was one of those people. I thought, like, man, the Broncos are just a mess, and they are circling the drain.
Right.
And that has not been the case here over these last few weeks. So now they're 6-5. Another Perro Macho of mine is Steelers tight end Pat Freiermuth. Okay. The Muth is Luth, right? That's a little bit like Mike Tyson. I don't know, that was just added. I think I saw this like on some sort of headline. Either way, the reason why I pick him, he's had injuries. There's been inconsistency in his career. But the most overarching thing here is that the Steelers offense actually had over 400 yards.
Wow.
They actually, yes, heel. That's what we need to see out of these skilled players of the Steelers, because we saw Najee Harris run the ball with effectiveness. You saw what George Pickens can do when he gets those go fly patterns and he's catching the ball. He didn't put up great numbers, Pickens and Deontay Johnson, but a guy like Pat Freiermuth kind of is the microcosm of the change in offensive coordinator and Matt Canada no longer being there. And the fact that this team did what they did against the Bengals, a key divisional game, they're 7-4. They're 7-4 now. So they're squarely in this playoff race themselves.
Mike Tomlin streak continues.
Yes. So those are my guys. I know they seem a little bit out of the box, but I think Pat Freiermuth and Russell Wilson. Maybe an honorable mention to the defense of the Ravens, which totally shut down the Chargers. So those are mine.
I love that. Okay, oddly enough, the one thing I didn't have for Thanksgiving was plátanos.
Yes, come on.
So now I need a healthy helping.
Thank you. Thank you.
With a little
Mil
Platano
gracias.
Power. You went outside the box.
Yeah.
I'm going inside the box.
Inside the box? Okay.
And by box,
What do you have?
I mean my fantasy squad score
Okay.
box. We talked about
Give it
him
to me.
earlier. Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts. So here's the thing. I drafted Jalen Hurts as my QB in both of my fantasy leagues.
Smart.
When he went on the bye week several weeks ago, I put in one Joshua Dobbs.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've been doing lately is on the team on the league where I'm trash. I've been starting Josh Dobbs, and in the league where I'm
There you go.
great, I've been starting Jalen.
You've got
Hurts.
flexibility.
Yes, I've got a little flexibility, and he did not disappoint. I think 34 points was what I got from him. Unbelievable.
Yes.
Check my records here. I'm
bien
also
prima
very
hermana.
greedy and strategic when it comes to my fantasy team because I have Deebo Samuel on both of my leagues as well.
Me gusta mucho,
And
huh?
welcome back, Deebo Samuel.
Yeah,
because
Deebo.
after he came back from injury,
So
it
key.
was a little slow to get off, to jump back out there.
Well, since he's been back, and Trent Williams.
100%.
Yeah.
He's been back, and of course they have CMC there who does pretty much
What he wants.
whatever
on the
he
ground,
wants and
yeah.
can do it all. And Brandon Ayuk has been tremendous, but Deebo Samuel was due for a huge game, and man, did he come through. 22.4
Yeah.
fantasy points. Unbelievable. 79 rushing yards. The tug. Caught a few passes as well. You know that he's a hybrid dynamic type of guy. Love that for me
Yeah.
and for all the other fantasy owners. And I can report that I won in both of my fantasy. Even the one where I'm trash. It did help that my opponent forgot that Joe Burrow is out for the season and that was her starting quarterback. But you know what?
Whoops.
We'll take the win.
Whoops.
We will take the win. It's fine.
Chofito. That's what my
Pobrecita.
mom would say. Pobrecita,
Pobrecita.
Chofito. Listen, the I Juked You team did well with Brandon Ayuk, 17 points there. So it was DJ Moore and actually benched Jamar Chase.
Ooh.
So that was the big risky move. But because
For
Jake
sure.
Browning is the quarterback there, don't know what sort of volume you're going to get from any of these skill position players of the Bengals there, as we veer off into Fantasia. Right? Into those
very
fantasy
important.
teams. So now we are in the final portion of the El Huddle podcast. This is the Y Punto. This is where we put our little spin, our little bow on everything. And, my Y Punto is we had 10 rookie quarterbacks starting.
Unreal.
Which is unreal for sure. And to see these guys thrown into the fire, whether it's a Will Levis or a CJ Stroud that's thriving, Bryce Young is still trying to find himself, and we hope that he gets those weapons and he gets that O-line figured out. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I mean, these rookies, they've been forced into this, and you see how quickly they're able to adjust. And going back to the David Tepper discussion in the Panthers, he had said that there was unanimity between the football coaches and the scouting department that Bryce Young was their guy, and CJ Stroud wasn't that. And CJ Stroud has been able to elevate, and hopefully a guy like Anthony Richardson, who's a quarterback for Indianapolis, he heals up. These young quarterbacks, I want to see more of what they can do.
For sure.
And Will Levis, he's shown he's got guns, man.
Yeah.
He's swole, right? And so I want to see what he can do with the Titans, and a lot of football still to be played and to be determined with these guys. But to your point with, like, say, Bryce Young, we just want these guys to produce so quickly and so fast, and it's just not always possible.
And some can, but it's not always the case. And I think the surroundings have a lot to do with that. All right.
sure.
My punto is I love a touchdown celly.
Okay.
And I know that
there were some creative ones this week, right?
I know that our boy Zay Flowers got some shade from his quarterback. From
Lamar wasn't having it.
He did not love the bouquet, but he didn't love the nuance of what he was doing there. His name is Flowers. He was throwing the bouquet. I thought it was executed
But was it
great.
the setup? The setup maybe took too long.
Maybe that's
right?
where the
Is that
timing of I don't know. I thought it was really
beef? Yeah.
cute. I love a touchdown celebration, and then he did the penalty kick one at the end. But really, the bigger part of this is that these guys are taking some time. They're really rehearsing these. They're getting them together.
Yes.
I love a moment
This
for the
week
choreography.
felt more choreographed for some
sure.
reason.
I mean, to be honest, I think that Zay had a feeling that he was going to get to the end zone given their opponent. Unfortunately, and it's not to poop on our Chargers here, our neighbors from across the way, but it has not been great. And I think that a lot of teams feel like, hey, we could have an opportunity here. And that is a way for teams to sort of chirp without chirping.
Right.
Like we had all of this prepared. We have all this choreography prepared to go up against you. It is a form of trash talk, if you will.
Yeah.
But I kind of love it.
I like it
do.
too. There was the celebration that they did within the Texans celebration. I think it was like the Tank Dell one with CJ Stroud, and where it's like they're all lined up and then he knocks him out.
Yeah.
It's just like, so yeah, it just felt more choreographed this this
I don't
week.
think we've seen as many this year. We've had a couple of years where it's like full on choreography week after week. We need more of that, guys. We need more of that. Come on.
Yes, we do. And we'll see what happens between the Seahawks and the Cowboys. Maybe there's going to be some choreographing there. Like that's the game on Thursday night. And we would be remiss if we didn't mention the Cowboys on this podcast, given how well they have played here, how well Dak has looked, how great CeeDee Lamb has looked.
How great Dolly Parton was in the halftime show of the
Dolly, that was like initially, that was a little jarring. I'm not going to lie. It's just like Dolly coming out. She's dressed as one of the
cheerleaders. She would make the squad.
I mean, it just was like, didn't expect that. Right, but
Dolly's gonna keep us on our toes.
Hey, listen, do you, Dolly? Do you? And she did. But Dak Prescott and this offense has looked so different since the bye week, and they've been fun to watch. And now CeeDee Lamb has 7 touchdowns. Do you know who has 5 touchdowns after him? Deron Bland.
Nice.
The man has 5 pick sixes, and he could potentially have more. And he's probably licking his chops, looking at Geno Smith.
Yeah, no question.
And that Seahawks team coming off of that performance against the 49ers. So that's Thursday night. So
woo, we're rolling.
Yeah,
Week
we are.
13. The days are long, but the season is short, you guys.
No lo puedo
well,
creer.
bring us on home.
Yeah, no lo puedo creer. Hey, prima hermana, as always, a pleasure. Back together again with you. And our new merch that we've got, which is awesome. These mugs.
They're so cool.
Puede ser que puedas tener cafecito.
Yes, thank you to our friends at Liga.
Yeah, La Liga, claro, mil gracias.
I'm going to try and make my mom's chocolate recipe, which is really my grandma's chocolate recipe.
There you go.
So
and you know,
like
in Nick Rowe, there's a thing called a pinolillo, which is what I think we've talked about. This a little bit like horchata.
Oh,
that they have, you know.
I'm in on that.
But you can have that in any glass, really. Right. But I just love this mug here.
This is going to keep it warm.
Either way, listen, we encourage you to please download, subscribe, and like to the El Huddle Familia, the pod. We want to hear from you. We want you to be a part of the discussion. And we know, I was with my family and showed the Saturday Night Live skit with Pedro Pascal and Bad Bunny. So funny. It just reminds you of growing up. So if you haven't seen it, I encourage you to go on YouTube and watch those 2 skits. Either way, prima hermana, siempre un gran placer. Let's do this again next week.
Absolutely.
All right. Adios, everybody.
Adios.